Hello, everyone, and welcome to Health Authority TV. I am Janan Sarwar, the deputy editor for Health Authority Books. This is an imprint and partnership between Indie Books International and Global Bookshelves International. I'm so excited today to introduce you all to Dr. Blair Thielemier. She's a consultant pharmacist and founder of the Pharmapreneur Academy. Welcome, Blair. How are you doing?
Thank, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well.
Well, I just gave you such a short introduction. So tell us more about who you are and who do you serve as a health authority leader.
Yeah, I love that. First off, calling, us health authorities, because as a pharmacist, sometimes we don't always see ourselves that way, right?
Yes,
I am first and foremost, I think, a woman. I really care. I've focused a lot of my training and things on women's health. And as a pharmacist and consultant in the state of Arkansas, some of the stuff that we can provide around women's health services are really important to me, as well as being a mom of three and really understanding that women are often the drivers and the health authorities in their families. Often we're the ones that are making decisions about whether or not to take our kids to the doctor for an antibiotic, in addition to making decisions about our own health. So, as a pharmacist, I went to pharmacy school to learn how to be healthier myself. I'm not sure pharmacy school quite taught me that, but after pharmacy school, it did give me the background and knowledge on, biochemistry and all of the things so that I can make better decisions about my own health and my family's health moving forward. So I think that's been really a huge part of my own journey is learning to navigate my own health challenges as well as my family's as a healthcare authority and trying to understand maybe the ways that I may want to do things differently in my own journey.
absolutely. That's really a beautiful holistic way to share more about you and what you do. And, when you mentioned your family, but who else are you working with and what is it that you help them with when you work as an entrepreneur or as a pharmapreneur?
Yeah. I started the Pharmapreneur Academy back in 2015. So in internet years, a very long time ago. And it was really born out of this entrepreneurial spirit I had. I was looking for ways to practice more clinically, to connect more closely with patients in the community pharmacy setting. So even in the retail setting, I was having patients that, they would come up and they would ask me questions. What do you recommend for constipation? And I found myself talking about lifestyle modifications and lifestyle medicine and food and how much water do you drink every day and how much movement are you getting in your day-to-day life. And so I really found myself talking about much more non-pharmacological interventions. And at the same time, I was starting my family back in 2014. I was working as a clinical hospital pharmacist at a local hospital, rounding with the doctors, doing a lot of antibiotic dosing and that kind of thing. So when I started my family, I was looking for something a little bit more flexible. I built a consulting business. I started my own consulting business through an LLC, and I began working just for some local pharmacies, helping them get set up with their MTM programs and vaccination services. And so I began talking about that online. I'm the type of person I really it helps me learn if I'm teaching someone else.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, the ins and outs of medical billing
Yes.
are are challenging. It is a barrier. We as a profession in pharmacy, we say we want provider status. And with that comes credentialing, it comes billing. It comes all of these reimbursement challenges along with it. So I was really interested in starting a practice that did leverage some of those skills and those services that we can already provide, but also to create packages and things additionally that that patients were really looking for. So as I was on my own business journey and starting my own business journey, I began a blog and I began writing about MTM services and medical billing and strep and flu testing and oral contraceptive prescribing and what it would look like for a pharmacist to work in a physician's office
Yeah.
and see patients in that way. So as I was doing that, I began connecting with more and more pharmacists, mostly through LinkedIn. And they were also joining my blog and joining my newsletter, what then became the Pharmapreneur Academy newsletter. And so my entrepreneurial career, I was a lot of this I was doing for myself. I was just
Yeah.
recording my own journey. And then pharmacists began reaching out to me and saying, how do I set up my own consulting business? I'm interested to learn more about MTM billing or, chronic care management within a physician's office. And so that was really how I began the Pharmapreneur Academy and putting e-courses, virtual summits. I think I've had you on a virtual summit, and it changed my life because it expanded my network and my perspectives and my ways of thinking 100-fold, over the next 10 years. And, today I still primarily work with women, and I think that to me, I really see women as the health authorities in their families and helping them to understand and advocate for themselves and their families, whether that's through entrepreneurship and starting their own business or starting on their own health and healing journey.
That is beautiful. What a journey you've had. And as you said, kind of some of your entrepreneurial journey came from necessity, but also being able to share with others. And I think it's really interesting that it was back in 2015, that time period, it was blogs, it was writing that connected people. And to this day, how are people staying connected to you through what you're doing?
Oh, that's a great question. So, yeah, it's man, the internet's just a weird place. And
It's
and,
evolving too, right? So much is
and
changing rapidly.
exactly, exactly. And so now, like, I read an article and I'm like, this feels like ChatGPT wrote it,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's missing, you're an author, and like it's missing that human element, that creative spark, that I don't know, willingness to mess up or look
Yeah.
silly or whatever. Like everything is just so polished and kind of watered down in a sense. And so I'm seeing a resurgence of people looking for real connection.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the things that was kind of born out of that, so I love to travel. Absolutely love it. And I've hosted masterminds and group retreats and things like that in the past. They were all much more like professional development focused. We would do workshops and things like that. So it was still work. But this last year, I created something that I'm really excited about, which was a true adventure, health and wellness type retreat in the Galapagos Islands.
Oh,
So
fascinating.
it was, I visited actually, I visited Ecuador the first time, I think in 2016. And I'd been dying to go back to visit the Galapagos. And I got the chance to in 2024 on a live aboard ship. I was seasick entire time pretty much.
Yeah.
But I had a wonderful time and I made a lot of very close friends on that trip. And as same thing, as things happen, I was posting pictures, I was talking about my trip, and I had so many people reach out and say, I would love to go. That's a bucket list trip. There's so many regulations and permits and things because the islands are so protected
Yeah.
ecologically that it is a very difficult place to travel. And so over the past year, I'd been, working on putting this truly a retreat, a done for you, all inclusive type thing together. And in April of 2026, we took myself and 13 guests
Wow.
to the Galapagos Islands for 8 days of just being in nature and being with the animals and spending time eating healthy foods, moving our bodies. Probably a little bit too much. I think at one point I looked and it had gone like 21,000 steps in a day, and I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, this is it's not a destination that you want to wait till you're retired to do.
Sure.
And so I think integrating physical activity, integrating, the mindfulness. We took time to stretch and do yoga to prepare our bodies to go snorkeling and go hiking and do all the things. We ate really fresh, healthy foods, and the whole idea behind this retreat was not just to provide an amazing week. It was amazing, and memories that last a lifetime and all that, but also to begin habits and begin introducing, a different way of being, a different way of looking at health in your life. And I think for me, that was when I really began my healing journey, when I began to see what were the things that I could remove from my life that would help my body, remember how to heal itself naturally. And so I think that's a big piece of what we try to do with our programs, and whenever I'm working with people, is to identify what those things are that we can do to maybe get out of our own way.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, that absolutely even answers the question that we ask everyone of you've been working as a pharmacist and doing all of this for so many years, and you're proposing this is your solution to potentially how to redesign the system and the healthcare system that we're in. Because even the concept of mindfully eating healthy food when you're busy, you name the health provider, dentist, pharmacist, doctor. Sometimes we prescribe or we share, we recommend these things, but we don't have time to do it ourselves. And so that's a really beautiful concept to just even focus inwardly. And how did the people so it was 13 people including you?
Mm-hmm.
What were the reactions? How did it turn out overall? How did they feel?
I think one of the biggest things that came out of it was the pressures of decision making.
Oh, yes.
And, I know you're a busy mom as well and an
Yes.
entrepreneur, and we carry a lot of responsibilities on our shoulders. So the kind of main theme that came out of it was how taken care of our guests felt, and that they didn't need to make any decisions about where are we going to eat dinner, what am I going to order, where should I go sightseeing, like all of that. We had, from the time they stepped off the plane in Quito, a transport to pick them up, to take them to the hotel. I met them there at the hotel in Quito. We had a wonderful city tour. The first thing we did in Quito was and Quito is at like 10,000 feet. So there's some acclimation that
Right.
needs to happen. Everybody's feeling a little wonky, touchdown in a new country where many of us don't even speak the language. So the very first thing we did was to go to a market, and we went to a fruits and vegetables market, and we ate breakfast. And
Oh,
it was all of these exotic fruits that came from the Amazon. And we were nerding out because there was also these roots and herbs that had been ground, and there were stalls that they made teas and tinctures, and much more like traditional Ecuadorian
right.
healers. And we saw fresh, we had a fresh juice. We all went and got fresh juice smoothies to have to start the day. So there was just like things like that were little surprises along the way. We were given a chocolate tasting. So Ecuador's in the chocolate and coffee belt, and
Yes.
so we had a chocolate tasting where we sipped cacao, and 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 tried to distinguish the different flavors, like, oh, this tastes like it was planted by an orange tree, and
Oh, wow.
this one tastes like a little bit has a banana flavor. And so there was things like that really took the pressure off of our guests to figure out what to do, where to go, what to eat, where to stay. And that was the biggest thing for me. Was I really felt like I was able to show our guests that level of care, and giving them the opportunity to just chill and just be themselves and just leave all the worries and responsibilities that they carry as a healthcare authority, as a mom, as a spouse, whatever. Leave all of that behind and just focus on themselves for a change.
That is fantastic. And you have more of these planned, right?
I do. We're gonna do our next one. So already in the planning stages for April 2027.
Yes.
We'll be hosting another, we call it the Healing Medicine Retreat. So, I'm a big believer anything can be healing medicine. Laughter with a friend can be healing medicine. A swim in the ocean can be healing medicine. So I think as a pharmacist, I I always joke, it's like I'm the worst pharmacist ever, because if I'm looking at medications, I'm saying what could we do without,
Right.
what could we scale back on, because I think as pharmacists, you know we more than anyone understand the risks and benefits
Yes.
of medications, and we also understand that medication without lifestyle modification is
Yeah. Not
is a
right.
long-term thing. So
Yeah.
that's why I love the question that you ask all your guests about redesigning the healthcare system, because it's going to take a few different things, right? It's going to take innovative healthcare professionals that think differently, that are authorities in their field, that are willing to say, I'm not going to do it that way. Here's how I want to do it. Like, it's great to follow protocols and things, but when we're talking about preventative action, it's a very individualized conversation of where a person is on their willingness to change, and their willingness to begin to make different decisions around habits. That's one part of it. The other part of it, I think, and now I work in tech now, so I
Yeah.
work for a data company, and we help pharmacists to provide clinical services that benefit the patient and their outcomes. But it's, as a going from clinical pharmacist in the hospital setting, I had access to all of the patient's information, their serum creatinine and all of that stuff was labs and things that I used to make decisions about the patient's care. in the community pharmacy setting when I was doing MTMs and oral contraceptive prescribing and things like that. I didn't have access to any of that
Right.
information. So I really felt like if I, and if pharmacy had access to patient health information, we would be able to make better decisions and be more involved in patient care. And that would truly be a step in the right direction as far as provider status. So I think that's, I don't want to leave it on, well, if the system were just fixed, then we would follow suit. I think it's
Right.
we decide what we want the system to look like. We cast that vision, and then individually we make decisions in our
Right.
own careers going towards where we want to go, and begin building towards that. So that's something I'm really excited about as a part of Innovacer, to be able to help to integrate technology. I'm definitely not anti-tech,
Right.
but it's also, how are we going to use it in a way that we know more information is not the problem. Like,
No. Yeah.
it's not a lack of information that keeps people from changing their lives and being healthier. So how do we empower people to be their own health authorities?
Absolutely. I love that. Oh my goodness. So how can people stay connected with what you're doing? And if they want to go on the next healing medicine retreat, how would they learn more about that?
Yeah, so Pharmapreneur Academy is my website. If you want to
Yes.
join the newsletter, we send out a monthly newsletter to our community. Just tips and things that can help build consulting businesses, learn more about clinical service programs. LinkedIn is really where I spend the most time. And so always happy to connect with people there. And yeah, and I love connecting with new people. I love meeting people on the internet. You and I we've connected multiple times over the past few years. And so I always really value being able to take those online relationships offline. So, if anyone wants to connect with me in that way, I'm always happy to hop on a call and chat.
Absolutely. All the information for pharmapreneuracademy.com and how to reach you will be in the show notes below. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it. And for everyone else, may you remain healthy, wealthy, and wise. Thank you so much.